just stand there teasing me. Now
it's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchende. Great to be back here on the show. And it's been quite a year so far. As much as I wasn't here, of course, Nigeria keeps happening. And so much has happened, especially on the political front. We know everything, especially with the elections. Adamawa is still in the news right now. They held supplementary elections yesterday, and there seems to be some confusion as to what's going on with the results. The INEC has put out a statement saying that no candidate has been declared winner yet. So we're watching all of those spaces right here on Channels Television. So please stay with us as events continue to unfold. But we're going to be starting off the conversation today talking about artificial intelligence. It's something that a lot of us still don't understand very much. And we are starting to see how quickly the world is changing with regards to technology. We're going to try to understand what that is, how it's going to be shaping the future, the pros and cons, and most importantly, where Nigeria stands in all of this. We had an election that was filled with a lot of misinformation and disinformation, or what the world likes to call now fake news. And that's one of the fears with regards to artificial intelligence and what can be deemed real these days. I'm joined here in the studio by David Afoloyan, who's the co-founder and CEO at Tech Next. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Ebuka.
So this is something that scares a lot of people, but also excites a lot of you in the tech space. But we did see a statement put out, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, by over 1,000 players in the tech space, including Elon Musk and all of them, saying that we need to slow down. And people are wondering if people on that level are scared of what AI is doing or coming with. What does it portend? What do you feel about how things are going with artificial intelligence right now?
Yeah, you know, when you watch a lot of sci-fi movies and you create these very fantastic robots that can do a lot of things, it gets to a point where, you know, the way the usual plot goes, the robot becomes so intelligent, it begins to attack the creators. So artificial intelligence is a very powerful feature of every technology. That's the capacity of machines to be able to make predictive analysis, to be able to analyze data and make decisions. If that has a potential for a lot of damage if it is not well controlled, but it's a good thing. I mean, before now, if you want to, say, research a particular topic, the best thing to do is to go to libraries, bring out books, read through, and make a decision. Then we had the advent of search engines like Google, like Bing. So you just type the topic, and Google gives you thousands of repositories that you could look through. But what AI like ChatGPT has done is aggregate this data from different sources without you having to go to those platforms to search for those data and give you a concrete substance. So that is the future of AI that can generate content from content. But the thing about technology is not human, so it cannot make an emotional decision. You know, there are certain things you will know as Ebuka that you might not put out here on TV because you feel this might spark up some sort of violence if people get to know about this, because maybe the information is premature or you're not sure. But computer works by the principle of garbage in, garbage out. If the source of the data, there is any input that is a false information, the AI is going to generate data from that false information. So the players in the space are saying, yeah, we have this capability that is very powerful, but it can be damaging if we do not control it. I mean, we saw how beautifully social media started. People could tweet in 1 minute, and the rest of the world could see the information just in the millisecond. But with that same speed, people could disseminate false news. And that is the same capacity that AI can have if we do not manage it. But luckily, a lot of countries are already looking at regulating it. Italy made a statement last week that they are going to limit the capacity of ChatGPT in Italy until they are able to sit down with the founders, which is OpenAI, to agree on the barriers. I think it's too early, but a lot of countries need to start thinking about it.
Yeah, and I hear that, and it's something that I find people are not sure how that's supposed to work. Because like you mentioned with social media, there's been talk for years about regulating social media, regulating the internet, but the world has still not figured out how to do that. You have some countries where there are outright bans. You have countries who shadow ban and, have some level. We've had a conversation in Nigeria where we had Twitter, for example, off air for quite a while, So that's an ongoing conversation. With artificial intelligence, it feels even harder. How does government come in? Should government come in? And, where do we draw the line? We're seeing universities, for example, across the world now trying to sort of come up with ways to identify something as simple as an exam or an assignment given to a student because the student didn't write it. It gives a command to ChatGPT and gets the entire exam written for them.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. It's supposed to make life easier, but it's also very complicated. And I get the worry, don't you?
Yes, I also get the worry. But I think that like every other form of regulation always catches up with innovation. Innovations will come first, then regulation will catch up. AI had always been in existence, beginning from as far back as 2009. So just think about your Siri. Hey Siri, you speak to Siri every day, and at some point Siri gets to understand your intonation, your voice, and kind of can begin to suggest the possible thing you might be looking for. Say every 4 p.m. you say, Siri, open Google Maps and take me to Lekki. At some point, Siri can suggest by 4 p.m. to say, Ebuka, are you going to Lekki? But at the point where we are now, AI is now open to everybody. That is what ChatGPT has done. And the power of that is it now gives people the capacity to aggregate information in a short while. I think that regulation is going to catch up. When we had the emergence of Wikipedia many years ago, a lot of people could get information from Wikipedia. The ideal thing for you to do then was to have an encyclopedia account on your system where you would have to look for information. But there is a web place where this information is readily available. But the problem with Wikipedia, and the same problem we are having with ChatGPT, is that the source of information can be wrong.
Yeah.
So I could go to your Wikipedia page and decide to change your full name and maybe add Adewale at the back of your name. And at that point, universities decided that you cannot reference Wikipedia as an academic source. So it's going to get to the point where universities and schools will say, we cannot deny the fact that ChatGPT or every other form of AI exists, but we cannot take it as an academic reference. Because if I'm making a research on Nelson Mandela, what ChatGPT does is to pick up sources of articles about Nelson Mandela across the internet, create a different content with those sources and give it to me. If someone had written a wrong information in the originating content, ChatGPT is going to give me a wrong information.
Got it. Yeah.
Institutions will have to come to the fact that it is possible for this powerful tool to make mistakes. So we are not going to take it as a concrete source of information. Then we are going to have things like, if you go on your Facebook or Twitter, you're going to see official, or this is an official undo. So there will be some sort of credibility assigned to maybe certain undos or certain sources.
Let's go now to Favor Borokini, who's joining us online. He's a technology policy researcher. Thank you very much, Favor. This is something that I think, like I said earlier at the start of the show, the fact that people in the tech space seem to be worried, I think, is what's getting people, a little edgy. But we have countries like Nigeria that need all the technology that they can get, or the technological help that they can get. Okay, I think Favor is not with us. We're going to come back to that. But let me ask you that now. For a country like Nigeria that needs technology, we are far behind. And things like this are what we're looking for to help us, sort of push ahead. We've seen it happen in India. They're almost sort of crossing from almost, the back end and leapfrogging all of those levels that advanced countries went through. Yeah. So there should be benefits for us, shouldn't there?
Yes, there are. The good thing about Nigeria is we've always adapted. When 3G came, we had not finished. We did not have 2G coverage then. We jumped to 3G. We had 4G. Now we have 5G. So Nigeria will always adapt. There is a segment of the population that is fast, early adopters, and they have the capacity to adopt. I mean, Nigerians are using electric cars. So we are going to adapt. We're going to get to leverage the capacity of the AI. Our problem, what I foresee that might be a problem for us is the usual problem, which is a problem of regulation. There is this tendency for regulators not to understand the innovation and just clamp down on it, instead of sitting down with innovators to understand. So as we speak, a lot of African startups are creating AI solutions. So there is a startup in South Africa called Voice that has created a platform that could take your FAQs, your frequently asked questions, and people will call in to your company. They would assume they are speaking with somebody, but there is a generated voice that would answer their questions with a human voice and speak like a customer service agent. Some Nigerian startups are also creating solutions with AI, but with the capacity that those startups can generate, government can get in and say, this is becoming too fast for us. And that is the only challenge that I see. But as for adoption by the early adopters, innovators, I think they're already jumping on the AI game already.
What sort of sectors do you see benefiting from AI in Nigeria now? Because I hear a lot of the fears for things like jobs, we're seeing it already globally where you're saying, we don't need humans for a lot of these things anymore. So it makes you wonder, about the negatives.
Yeah.
But what are the positives for a country like Nigeria to be excited for what AI can bring? So, and we're not just talking about ChatGPT, we're talking artificial intelligence as a whole and the things that might come in a few years or decades to come.
So generally, first is education. Before now, for you to get data, you have to go to different sources. It could take you a lot of time. What AI has been able to do is decentralize information sources and also help people generate content ideas. So the content industry, entertainment, story writing, content creation, in fact, even as easy as creation of platforms, coding, website designs, these are areas that people are simplifying using AI. So it's going to benefit the education sector, the engineering sector, software engineering. It's also going to be very useful especially in the health sector. The efficiency of the Nigerian health system, is well known to all of us. But what we're beginning to have is startups that have created platforms where people do not necessarily have to walk into an hospital, especially in areas where people do not have hospitals. But on their mobile phone, you could chat with a platform, with a computer, and the computer will ask you a set of questions, and from your answers, determine what your health challenge is, and maybe recommend some drugs, and you could just order online and it's delivered to you. So we're going to have a lot of benefits. And to the question of people losing their jobs, the truth is, for every innovation that has come, people lose their jobs. But the beauty is more jobs will be created. I say that AI, like every other technology, is just like a water. We are all standing in the water. As the water goes down, the lower it goes, then you're going to realize some people aren't wearing shirts, some people aren't. So the people with the low skills, if you are just a basic content writer, AI may take your job. But if you're a specialist, remember it's a computer, it's not very creative.
Yeah.
So I could go on Google, research some things, and write a fantastic content. AI might not be able to do that yet.
Okay. I think we have Favor now, who's joining us online. Favor, can you hear me? How are you doing?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Okay, thank you very much. We didn't have you earlier. I just wanted to put this to you now, because thank you for joining us. We're talking about artificial intelligence and, all of the things that come with it. And we're talking about Nigeria specifically. And I want to ask you now about, things that have happened around the elections. There's a lot of talk about how these elections were just filled with a lot of disinformation and misinformation. And we've seen what AI is doing, not even in Nigeria yet. The picture of the Pope, I don't know if you fell for it, but I did the first time I saw that picture of the Pope in the jacket. And, a lot of us saw that and wondered, if things are already this good, what's going to happen in 2 years? We're seeing lyrics of Thames song being sung by Rihanna. Meanwhile, she didn't sing it. These are all the things that technology is starting to put out there. And it makes you wonder, for a country like this, where we have to be honest, people take advantage of things like this to do the worst. Should we be scared about what's to come in a space like this, where you wake up one day and someone says, oh yeah, this guy is guilty of something, but he hasn't even left his house?
I think that's a very good question. And I think that we should be not worried or scared, but alert and much less optimistic than we are. Because, as you've said, the times that we live in and the environments that we live in are being referred to as a post-truth period. So a lot of these things have been happening in more AI-ready climes. Like in the US, a couple of years ago, Nancy Pelosi, a deepfake video was created of her in which she appeared to be drunk while within the Senate in the US. And such deepfake videos have also been made of the Queen of England before her passing, albeit in a more entertaining light. So these things have been happening, and really the most surprising thing is really that it's only just becoming more visible today now in Nigeria. So I think that we need to be very worried. We need to be especially worried because there is very poor literacy, media literacy, and many people are not trained in how to discover truth, how to fact check information for themselves. So these are some reasons why we need to be worried. But we also need to not be too worried at the same time. I think the right thing to do is to find the balance, not be taken away by the hype, but not become so pessimistic that we believe that there is no more truth and that everything coming out of this technology is evil and bad.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm talking of, the country and, we know the level of poverty and illiteracy. And I think that's what I want to talk about now. Because we talk about penetration first for mobile. And we still know that a lot of Nigerians still don't even have access to smartphones. Yes, there's tens of millions of us who do, but there's a huge population who still doesn't, and the things are moving really fast. We're talking of 5G already in Nigeria. How do we... Because for me now, I want to think I'm literate enough, I'm educated, but even AI is still a little complex for me. How far away are we from a time when the average, I use that loosely, Nigerian understands, the benefits of AI and what it can do, whether it's for, like he was saying earlier, education, technology? Are we still far away from things like this being mainstream, you think?
I think that I would say that the mainstreaming of AI, for instance, just like the mainstreaming of other advanced technologies into the educational system is a sort of different scenario from it entering into general usage and understanding. So I think that while the former would ultimately rely on our governments and their ability to adapt as quickly as possible, the latter ultimately relies on, I guess, the free flow of information and adaptation and how quickly young people in particular are able to use this technology. I would consider myself an AI pessimist or, well, an ethicist. I'm very concerned about the implications for employment, for instance. And I think that we should be more concerned about this. It's not, there's this way that technologists, I've observed that technologists view innovation as an overall positive, a net positive, that you need to break a few eggs to make an omelette, but it's not so easy. And you find that the people who are most likely to be able to adapt to it are already more privileged than other people. So I think we need to look at some of these issues before we hasten adoption of AI and even integration of it.
Okay. Are you an AI optimist or pessimist?
Yes, I am. I'm AI optimist, 100%.
Even with all the things she said?
Yes.
People, now, very quickly before we go, I know you did say that you're a pessimist, but I mean, you live in the UK, at least you're in the UK now. I don't know what's happening there, but lessons you think we can learn from what's happening in those advanced economies for Nigeria?
Yes, I think that one thing that I've observed across Europe, the UK, the US, even China, and more advanced climes is that there already have been there have been lots of collaborations between sociologists, that is social scientists, people from the physical sciences, from computer sciences, from the humanities, coming together to imagine AI futures. And when you bring people together from these multiple disciplines, you find that people are able to really speak to what the challenges will be. So this is something that we need to really work on in Nigeria. We can't let tech bros of all people drive the narrative about the benefits of AI in Nigeria. We need people who understand our history, because the history of marginalization, of ethnicities, of women, of people based on religion will show how the integration of AI in Nigeria in particular will cause harms to people. So this is something that I have observed that isn't really happening now in Nigeria. So we need more people being more pessimistic, and we need more interdisciplinary efforts to shape the future of AI. Yes.
Thank you very much, Favor. I like that you are a pessimist and he's an optimist about this. I mean, I think it just encapsulates what this conversation is about and what the future is. So you are excited about things to come. Very quickly now, before we go in one sentence, like I asked, how far away are we from mainstreaming of AI for a country like this?
Nigeria adopts things fast, so it's going to be faster than we think. A lot of people are already working on it, like I said.
Okay.
And we can already see funding in the space. And the thing about Nigerians is where the money is. People will innovate. I mean, the highest raise so far in 2022 was InstaDeep, a Tunisian startup that raised $100 million. And it's an AI startup. So if I'm a tech founder, I'll be thinking of AI already.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today. I think this is an ongoing conversation for many years to come. We're all watching the space very closely, and I wonder if one day I won't be sitting here and some point we'll be hosting Rubbin Minds instead.
No.
But we'll take a break now. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. Now, Nigeria is preparing for another round of population census, and I think it's been over a decade and a half since the last one, I think in 2006. We were supposed to have that between March the 29th to April 2nd. It's now been moved to May 3rd to 5th. And there's a lot of questions surrounding how this is supposed to work. Are we going to be able to count everybody in that short period? How are we going to stand in line? Are we going to wait at home? Let's try and get more information about, all of it that's happening today. Join us from our Abuja studios by Olanikbekun Evelyn Ariola, who's the director of Census, and Abdullahi Haruna Harrispace, who's a journalist. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. Let me start with you, madam. These dates have been quite contentious for a lot of people. We've gone through a lot this year, from queuing to get PVCs to queuing to vote. And, there's a lot that's happened in the country and people are wondering, how are these census supposed to work? I don't seem to feel like there's a lot of information out there on how this happens. Give us an idea of what's supposed to happen between the 3rd and 5th of May.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Nigerians. Good afternoon, Ebuka. Thanks so much for this opportunity and glad to be with you this afternoon. National Population Commission is set to conduct a national census for Nigeria, having waited and worked for the past 17 years after the last census in 2006. And haven't started preparation for this new round since 2014. We have actually put a work plan in place, and a lot of activities have taken place, starting with the pre-census programs, including enumeration area demarcation. This seems to be one of the very first things we do when we are preparing for census. And this actually began in year 2014 And when we say enumeration area demarcation, we mean an exercise that involve creating small units from the land areas we have in Nigeria. That is, we are going to every locality, every LGA, in every state, covering every unit within the administrative boundary of every community, and creating smaller units, which we refer to as assignment units, and popularly called enumeration area units. These enumeration areas are the sizable workload which we assume that our enumerator will be able to cover within the days assigned for census. Now, we have been able to successfully delineate the entire country to about 99.6% of the total land area of Nigeria, leaving out a few percentage, that is, a few proportion, which we could not gain access to. And having had this magnitude of success in the area of enumeration area demarcation, we have a good tool which now form basis for our planning. With this frame created, we're able to determine what number of workforce do we require to conduct a census in Nigeria? What resources and materials do we need to do this? And this has also helped us to go ahead to move into other areas of what are the needs of Nigeria now that needs to be covered in our data collection. And all of this we settled down to put together in the questionnaire design and development. And this also was successfully done. As much as possible, stakeholders were involved, data users were invited to come and work with us on the questionnaires. Questions were received from different stakeholders depending on their areas of need. And as much as possible, we have tried to develop a kind of an all-inclusive questionnaire, which we are taking out now to canvass information from individuals.
Sorry to cut you short. Sorry to cut you short there, Ma. I don't know if you can hear me, because I wanted to get specifically to the 3rd to the 5th of May. These days for the counting, because I want people to understand how those days are supposed to work. That's what I'm trying to find out. Are we sitting at home? Are we going somewhere? I want to understand what's supposed to happen on those days.
Okay. I haven't had all the preparations set, and 3rd of May is supposed to be an enumeration day, commencement of enumeration. And every Nigerian is expected to be in their place of usual residence to be counted. And when we say usual place of residence, that is where you usually reside, sleeps, go to work, and back to your families. Where you are more than 60% of the month of the week. That is where you refer to as a home, as at the day of, as at today, we want to meet you there. So now, enumerators will come in to your household. We already have the areas mapped out into enumeration areas as I explained earlier. So an enumerator armed with the map for each area will come into each building. Every building has been geocoded. They will visit one building after the other. First of all, we will carry out a kind of building numbering and household listing. That is, we will want to first of all prepare a roster of all households in each enumeration area. So this is where we are taking off from. We do this going house to house, having taken record of every building and every household. Then we come back the second round to come for individual interview, where we have to engage every member of the household as we see them, because census is going to be a de facto. And by de facto, we mean that we count people at site, and you are counted where you are found. We do not expect that people will move from one location to the other, because the whole essence of the data collection is to be able to generate valid data for planning. And you plan for persons where the resources will be required. And if movement during census distorts the information, then that data will not be very effective for planning. Therefore, we expect everyone to be where they are on a normal day, carrying out their daily routine, go to work, come back home, sleep, and wake up each day.
So I hear you. We're supposed to stay at home, and officials will come to the homes. Is what
yes,
I just wanted to get
supposed to stay at home and be counted, because we are not going to count anyone in their place of work.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Let me go now very quickly to Abdullahi. You're a journalist. I know you are a supporter of the census and all of that. But have you been comfortable with the level of publicity that the census that's coming up has gotten? Because there's a lot of people who have wondered, the elections this year have been extremely heavy. Almost nothing else makes the news if it's not about the elections. And it feels like, this could have been done at a different time when, the country was probably a little more settled. I know a lot of people don't even know these dates and when they are holding or what it entails. Is it a public holiday? Are we sitting at home? I've heard people say they're traveling back to their villages. The information seems very thin. Have you been comfortable with the information that Nigerians have gotten about the census?
Thank you very much, Ebuka. I think, to be fair to the census body, there have been some level of buzz around the census. The social media where I belong has been awash with, talks of this very census. You may say that it's not been controversial as usual. Nigerians, we like to trend on the negative. So there hasn't been anything negative as it relates to, the census. If a mere post on social media, for instance, you see the avalanche of young people coming around to inquire about the census, especially those who have actually registered to be enumerators or officials, as the case may be. The hype that is expected may not be there, the controversial one, but to a reasonable level, I think there have been some, reasonable kind of engagement as far as the buzz and the hype it's concerned. We belong. I happen to be a member of a group of social media enthusiasts who have been talking, seriously across the country about this census issue. So to that extent, I think it's been, they've been everywhere. A trip to the airport, for instance, you see, the erection of billboard that talks about the census. When you tune onto your radio, you hear conversations. Like what we're having now is also an attempt to educate Nigerians on what is happening. Like I said, controversy sells. And because there's not been controversy around the census, people think there's not been enough publicity. I think there have been a publicity as far as we're concerned. Then going forward, why the census must happen. We must not wait until there's a Christmas or something special before this happens. We've been yearning for employment. We've been yearning for the best things of life, talking about education, health facilities, and the rest of it. Without census, without proper planning, without knowing the size, the population, the distribution of our population as a nation, the government can actually not plan for us. We've been talking about unemployment. What is even the rate of unemployment? Who are those who have been unemployed? We need to know. So with this kind of, situation or exercise, we're able to know what exactly our concerns. Madam did raise the issue of migration during census. The controversies or the very negative things I've been hearing about it is that there's been this quest for regional supremacy of claiming large ownership or otherwise to this census. It's not supposed to be so. Wherever you reside, wherever you find yourself, is where you should be counted, because when you are ill and you need to go to hospital, you won't be transported to Zamfara. So going to Zamfara to say you want to be counted there does not arise. In FCT, for instance, it is based on the availability of human beings that reside and work here, that the provision for schools, for hospitals, for markets, will be delineated.
Okay, I mean, there's no doubting the fact. Sorry to cut you in, because I don't want us to spend too much time because we have very limited time. I mean, everybody understands the importance of data. Data, no country can work without data, you know, and it's scary that we've gone 17 years without knowing how many we actually are. But you talked about skepticism there, and I think one of the biggest ones for a lot of people has been, how many Nigerians are we really, you know? And a pointer for a lot of people has been the elections. It feels like the harder it has become to inflate election numbers, the lower the number of voters we have seen. And people have tried to relate that to, are we really that many? You know, unfortunately, our number has been tied to politics a lot in our history. And people are very skeptical about the number of Nigerians we actually are. How confident are you that this would probably be a proper reflection for many people for the first time of how many we are?
Okay, we've migrated from the analog kind of census exercise. You were talking about artificial intelligence. Now we are tech exposed to the census. I'm sure the census body has actually introduced, technology this time around. So it's going to be difficult for people to inflate figures of where or how they do not exist. So this time around, to the best of my own optimism, I think we are in the right time to know the number of persons that we have in Nigeria, or living or dead, as the case may be.
Okay, let me go to Madam now very quickly, because you talked about, going house to house, and that has also been quite a touching point for a lot of people. I met someone earlier this year, he's about 43, who said he has never been counted in Nigeria, and he's lived through at least 2 or 3 census exercises in his lifetime, and he's never been counted. So I wonder, how are you supposed to work with people? I mean, you said you're going to meet your place of residence. There's a lot of fear about, are 3 days enough to count every Nigerian? How many staff do you have to make this possible? We know how complex this country is. What about those who don't have homes? There's homeless Nigerians. Does that mean they will never get counted if I sleep under a bridge or wherever? How do you capture everybody? Or are you going to count a certain number and then make an estimate of the rest?
Thank you very much, Ebuka. Actually, that's a very good question indeed. And to count entire Nigeria takes, one, having a good plan. And having started with a good frame, we are confident that we shall be able to count everyone more than ever before this time around. That is one. Then, again, we already told the whole world that we want to conduct a fully digital census for the first time in Nigeria. And that, be as it may, implies that we already have a well-laid out plan for that. And this has taken off from the time of enrichment area demarcation, whereby we have actually carved out the enrichment area, digitized them, and more than ever before, we have touched every nooks and crannies of the country. And as such, we have record of every building, every locality where they are, and for every LGA, we already know how many buildings are there as of today. Therefore, and all of these buildings we have, delineated into small units, which we are going to assign to each of our enumerators. So therefore, because and then this has been digitized, hence we're able to leverage on technology to have a good coverage during demarcation. And this has prepared a very good platform for us now to know the entire land area of the country and where the localities are, where the buildings are, and then number of EAs in each of the localities, which informed number of number of persons, enumerators we will send in there. And as such, we are able to be confident that every building, every locality have enough workforce. And with that, the issue of they have started census today, I have not seen them in 3 days, I've never been counted, will not be there, because as at today, any building, at least every Nigerian in every building, we testify to the fact that at one time or the other, their house has been marked and they have a code on their building. That code every building has been geocoded. And we have all of this being monitored. Once an EA is assigned to an enumerator, we're able to know if they are there. The one that they have not initiated, we're able to know that the enumerator is not yet there. So with the technology we are leveraging on now, we're able to have a good a good view of what is happening in every part of Nigeria. And as such, it is difficult in this new methodology to leave out a particular section of the country.
All right. Thank you very much,
section uncovered.
Well, I'm going to take your word for it.
And for the census date, it's not 3 days, it is 5 days.
5 days. What are the days again?
3rd to 7th of May.
3rd to the 7th of May. Okay, 5 days. Hopefully that's enough. Well, I'll take your word for it. Like I said, we did hear a lot of promises from the INEC. We know how things turned out eventually. So hopefully you don't come back and make excuses for us when this is all over. Thank you very much. I feel like we're going to need to get you back here a few more times before the 3rd of May to continue this conversation. But thanks a lot for joining us. We'll take another break now and be right back. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Well, let's talk content creation. Now, I feel like it's one of the topics I talk about a lot on this show, but that's also because it's our reality now, and it's a whole new genre or category of profession that has sprung up in the last couple of years, and you have a lot of young people who have taken that up very seriously, and it has become sort of a gold mine. So we're going to be talking today about whether it really is the new oil, or is something that's here for a minute. Joined now by Rex Moses. How are you doing?
Thank you, Buka.
So this content creation thing, it seems to be, thriving seriously, but at the same time, people are starting to wonder, is this something that's here to stay for a while? Because you see, it relies heavily on platforms, right? Sure. Instagram has tried to change their format. People are now saying, Instagram doesn't give you the engagement you need anymore. Yeah. Now it's TikTok, but TikTok has its own controversies now about whether China is doing what or the other. Twitter is going through with Elon Musk. So people wonder, for a profession that relies so heavily on what these platforms are, is it sustainable, you think?
Thank you, Buka. I think, firstly, what I would say is sustainable is because of, as long as, there is mobile phone, and as you know, not every Nigerian at the moment have a smartphone. It is still growing gradually. So as long as there will be smartphones, and then the platform will always be there. If this particular one goes down, there will always be another one that will actually rise up. And so I think it is sustainable, and it will always be there. Yeah. As Instagram, are coming up with their own. We see TikTok rising with its own different controversy here and there. And then do not forget as well, YouTube is also there, where our young Nigerians or Africans are making cool dough. So, so I think it has come, and then it has come to stay.
Do you think we're at a point now where, let me use the word parents, understand when children tell them, I want to be a content creator? Because a lot of people still don't get it. People think it's a hobby. Yeah. Okay, he's just going to have fun. When he finishes, he's going to come back and go and apply for a job properly. Yeah. And people also wonder, what happens? Because TikTok, for example, is very heavy on, performance.
Yes.
Is it a career you are going to be doing at 55, for example? Is why people always wonder, how sustainable is it? Okay. So do you think we're there yet where people actually accept it as a career?
Okay, well, I listened to this program one certain time. Senator, the comedian, came, and then he said, after his degree in theater, he saw that and I said, okay, well done. So now, when are you going for your course? But, looking at it now, we even see parents joining content creation as well.
True.
So what I would say due to this is we can look at it as a career. Take it or leave it. People are paying their dues, paying their bills, and then assisting their families through this different platform. So if you compare a content creator, you can compare it maybe to a mechanic or to any other profession. Of course, they all have their do's and don'ts, and then they all have their lows and their highs. So I think we can take it as a profession. Because, and then, as you know, it is broad. There are different areas of content creation. even aside the fact that if we take TikTok now and then we'll say, okay, it's based on performance. Let us also look at YouTube, for instance. Before now, okay, let's say I'm a producer. I pick a movie and then I shoot, maybe even a short film. I have to probably go to Alaba and then look for one distributor to help me, or one oga to help me and make the thing go wide. Why right now, after producing and all that, I could probably write up Amazon Prime or write up Netflix and say, guys, I have something for you.
Yeah.
Check it out. And then boom, from there.
And we're even seeing content creators transition to mainstream actors because of what they do
we have
on
seen
social
that.
media. That's very true. But something that has been quite controversial is, this chase for engagement, the chase for likes, the chase for comments.
Yes.
You see people say, oh, please, they put up something, if it's on YouTube, please subscribe, please share, please hit the like button. On social media, they'd send you DMs, please help me repost, all of that.
Yeah.
And we've seen people who talk a lot about mental health and what it does to them when your engagement is no more as exciting as it used to be.
Yes.
Maybe there was a time where you were really funny, or people really liked the way you dressed or how you danced. A year down the line, they're like, we don't see you finish, Engagement starts to drop, people go into depression, and it feels like, so there's that constant fight for validation.
Yeah.
As a content creator, how are you able to separate understanding that it's just a job and it shouldn't define how I'm perceived, if I'm making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you draw that line so that it doesn't become sort of take over you, basically?
So, okay, first and foremost is that if somebody that has no prior experience or has never worked in any organization, or, we have seen some content creators who were maybe doctors before, or who were lawyers before, or who have done one thing or the other, they have gained life experience, and then they ventured into content creation. Definitely, that these Senate people, because of their life experience, they understand that this is just a job.
Yeah.
This does not define me. If my content is not selling well again, it doesn't mean that, of course, my life ends there. And another thing is I feel for some content creator, maybe they are not open to constructive criticism. I say constructive because there are some criticism that gets to people and then people want to, go and then they are constructive. Yes, there are some constructive ones, and then you look at these feedbacks and then you say, okay, it seems I'm not doing well. And another thing is, for some content creators, probably maybe they do not have a team or have a management team, you should be able to know or actually perceive and then look ahead, within a year, within 2 years, and then look at where you are and then where you need to be. If at the moment, within 6 months, the results you have been getting or the feedback you have been getting from people is looking, then you know that you need to take it up a notch, or you need to make a switch. But some people, they are not, some content creators might not be open to criticism, and then that, of course, those guys, when they hit the rock bottom, it gets to them, and then you see that mentally they go off.
I mean, it feels like, I think I tweeted once that it feels like we lost the first quarter of this year because of these elections.
Yes,
Nothing really happened in the country.
True.
Things are starting now to look like they will flow.
Yeah.
What does content creation in Nigeria look like for 2023? I mean, we have a new government.
Yes.
There's always fears of how much can you dabble in politics with your content.
True.
We're seeing what's happening with the music industry. Nollywood is flying away.
Sure. Yeah.
What does content creation look like for 2023 and maybe even beyond in Nigeria?
So I think, like you have rightly said, the first quarter, nothing came true because of the election. But looking at it now, there's a new government and then there's a new boss in play. So I think that, of course, has not stopped content creators from doing what they want to do. But what we need to do now is, of course, test 1 feet with, of course, the waters to know how this new government are going to receive some content. There are some content, of course, that might force some agencies to say, oh, you are crossing this line, and then they have to now cut you off. So I think, and what I always tell people, for content creators is for this, it's good to be funny, it's good to make joke and all that, but know when to draw the line. But having said that, for 2023, the future is bright. The future is bright.
Who are some people you're looking out for, maybe? In the space.
In the space.
Or sectors. Because, like I said, TikTok is big now.
Sure.
So the dancers seem to be making all the money, and the comedians. Are those two sectors still going to be the ones thriving, you think?
No, I feel we're going to have some people in tech breakthrough. Tech content creation. We're going to have some people in fashion, of course. You are many people's mentor in terms of that. We're going to see many people in fashion, of course, also break through. We're going to see people even in cooking as well. We have, I think, Chef Ify and so many. We're going to see some, cooking content creators as well also break through. So I don't think it's going to be the comedians and only the dancers that will break through 2023.
All right.
Yeah. So,
looking forward to that. I mean, we all want diversity, and I totally enjoy content creation. I've learned so much from it just by sitting on my couch and scrolling, and I'm like, wow, that was a great part. Good luck. Thanks a lot for joining us, looking forward to all the great things in this sector.
Thank you.
And thank you too for joining us. Like I always say, you can follow the conversation on social media. Please use the hashtag Rubbin Minds when you send us a message. I'll see you next Sunday.